Hello guys, welcome back to my screen. And on the screen at the moment, it's what looks like our login screen. So you'll be wondering, have I run through the whole process already? Am I done? So what exactly is this episode all about? So technically, yeah, I have everything kind of figured out. However, I thought there's still some parts that probably needs us to kind of come together and work through it. So remember, the whole point of this project is to kind of enlighten us how fintech projects work, okay? So most of it is going to be on the back end, actually. However, we're still going to explore some front ends, but not really the usual ones like writing CSS, blocking our codes, and so on. So yeah, I've gone ahead to do most of those. However, in case you're interested in also how we go about the UI design and stuff, I guess you can leave a comment down there to kind of draw my attention into it. Because at the moment, I don't really see that as a big deal. Well, I might be exaggerating it though. So yeah, let's get on to what we have here already. So as you can see on the screen, we have the login screen. By the way, if we go back to the main page, we don't have anything. It just says Next.js. And I won't bother about that because that won't be our focus. So this episode is going to be a completion to the one we already started. So remember, we had a 3-hour section recently trying to walk us through all the backend process. And because we spent a lot of time, I thought it's no-brainer to continue the front end in that same episode. So yeah, I decided to bring the front end as a separate episode of its own, and there you have it. So what exactly are we doing here, since we have all the designs? And the answer to that is, we have all the designs, we have all the mockup. What we're actually going to be doing is integrating our designs and kind of showing you how I go with that. Before we dive into that, I'll quickly show us what I've done so that we can quickly get into speed as to what we are doing. So back in my code, here is what we have. I created a components folder where I'm going to house my components. And for now, I have the auth components, which is going to be used by both the login screen and the register screen. Then also I have my utils files, which I can have multiple components within it. And for now, we just have the logo components. Then coming down to the app itself. So remember, we are using Next.js 13, and as a result of that, the structure is a little bit different. So if you are coming from an old version, I think this should be an heads up for you. And if you are interested in getting up to speed as to how Next.js 13 works, I already have a tutorial on that when I created a blog project for myself. So I'll leave a link to that in the description, and also check for the pop-up at the top of the screen. So based on that, we have two folders, which is kind of our routing now. And also we have a page.css, which is going to be our default page. And that's why you have the Next.js here. So within our folders, we have page.css as well for the login. And all this is doing is just reusing the auth component and kind of specifying some parameters, which is going to be needed. And also I've gone ahead to install this package, which is going to be useful for showing notifications. Okay. Then also for the sign up page, this is what it looks like. So like I said, the parameters is just what differentiates it. They are both using the same component, as you can see. So that was it in terms of our page. Then if we come back to the layout, just so you know what is going on here. So I did some configuration in here. For instance, I have the those container placed here as a requirement. Then also I included the CSS here. Then finally, I included my own CSS here as well. Then also I have configuration for the meta information. So we have the title and we have the description. So basic, as you can see. And within my main.css, CSS has kind of adjusted a little bit, and I'm liking it. So formally, if you've been following my tutorial, I tend to lean towards SAS, okay? SCSS. However, with the latest update with CSS, since we can now nest related elements, it's easier to just use this. I kind of like this flow instead of trying to repeat myself every time. So yeah, that's in regards to the improvements. Then also I obtained the auth_bg from Figma. This is what it looks like. This is it. I'm sure we will have seen it in the Figma design. And also I'm going to leave a link to the Figma design. So in case you want to just run along and have your stuff, then that will be fine. Okay, so that's what I've done so far. These are just the UI blocking. And what we need to do now is to actually perform our operation. So at the moment, this is what the login component looks like. And it's listening to our submit function from the auth component. So whenever we submit, the auth component is going to call the submit with the event, which we can just prevent the default. Then we are going to have form ref. And with form ref, we are able to access the information of our form. So in this case, we are going to have access to the email. We're also going to have access to the password, which is what we need to perform in login. But before we log in, I think the first thing usually is to register. So yeah, let's ignore what we have here. However, I'm going to copy this. Then come back to my sign up page. Yeah, I think I have part of it already, but I'll paste this. So we need to import the toast function, and we can easily quickly fix that. Like that. So yeah, let's just specify that this is register. Cool. So we have the server running already, and we can pull up to confirm, as we can see. And let's go back to our browser. So this is currently the login page, and we can access the sign up page by clicking here. So here is the sign up. And just to test that our toast is working, if we click on register, we get to see register toast. All right, so what we want to do now is to connect to our backend server, which is running at the moment. And we can confirm that if we go to our Postman and we click send, and we are able to get our login token because the server is running. So if we come back to our UI, what we want to do now is when we click on login, we want to see if we have access to the email address as well as the password. And the way to easily do that, since we have access to our form ref, is to just say form ref.current. And this current is because it's React ref. And we can quickly check out the auth component just to see how this is implemented. So within auth component, I have this form, which is use ref, and I assign it to the form element itself, as you can see. So on submit, it sends both the event and the form to our submit function, and that's all it does. So also, if we check through our form, we will see that we have input, type email, then the name is email. Then also for password, we have type password, then the name is password. So what we are doing is using that information. So we have the current, then we have the elements, in this case, the name of the content we want to access, which in this case is email. And to avoid all this line, we can say if current exists. So we can use this question mark in front of it. So now we have the form, then the email attributes, then the value of that input. So yeah, this is just testing for the email. And if we come back to our browser and we click register, we can see the email gets shown here. So which means we have access to the email, and automatically means we have access to the password as well. So we can define our objects. So here we can have let add. I think we should be used to this already. We tend to use it a lot on our backend. Equals to email. And in this case, the email is going to be formref.current. Then we put the optional check there. Then we have the value. Then our password is going to be password, formref current, then password. I think that's quite straightforward. So now that we have the arguments we need to make our request at this point. So here I can just drop a comment, make a register request. Like that. So one thing to know about writing code is your structure. So here we can just copy our URL for register and paste here. However, that won't be the best thing to do because in the event we want to change that URL and we might have used it at several points, then we'll need to start changing it every now and then, which is not good. So as a result of that, I can create a new folder here and call it utils, just like we have it with our backend. And in here, I'm going to have network. And this is just going to be a TS file. It's not going to be a component. So within our network, I'm going to define the base URL. So here I can have const base URL. And my base URL is localhost 8000. So next I can have objects for my URLs. So in this case, I can have auth URL as an object. So let's make it a const auth URL. Like that. So for my auth URLs, I'm going to have register. And because it's going to be an object, I don't need to call it register URL because I'm getting it from the auth URL in the first place. So register is going to be a combination of the base URL plus auth plus the URL itself. Let's quickly take a look at the structure in Postman. So yeah, we have the base URL plus the auth URL, then the login. So yeah, let's do that. So that will be base URL plus. So remember, we have to put this slash here. Auth plus. We have to put this here, register. Like that. Then let's do the same thing for the login. So Ctrl C and V. We have this as login. Then again, base URL auth, then this is login. Okay, so we have the two URLs we would need. So next we need to specify the client we want to use. So we could use the default JavaScript fetch. However, I don't like that. I tend to go towards Axios. So I'm going to install Axios. All right, so Axios is installed and I can start my server again. So that was running. So back in my page, which is going to be the register page, here I want to make the Axios requests and I want to make it in an async function. So that means I can tag this as an async function and that's all I have to do. So here I can await the response. So I can have const response equals to await. Then we have access to Axios. So this tells to import Axios by default. So Axios.posts, that's what we want to do. Then we'll specify the URL, which is going to be the auth URL, which we've not exported. So let's come back to networks. Let's export this. So now, since we've exported it, we can have auth URL dot register. Then we'll specify our argument, which is this. And that's all we need to do. However, since we are using await, if we do not catch the error is going to be included in the response if there is. However, I don't want that to happen. So what I'll do is I'm going to catch the error here. So the error is going to be E. And since we're using TypeScript, let's try to assign a type to it. And since this is an Axios client, then we should probably use Axios error. Okay, so there we have it, Axios error. So now we've cached the error, which means whatever we're going to have within our response is either going to be a null or a result. So finally, we also want to show what the error looks like. And here we can use our toast to show the error. So we can have toast into. So for now, let's just return e.message. Okay. Then also we want to tell this that this is an error. And here we can add the type as error. All right, so that was it about the error. And next we can check if the response actually exists. If response is we saying that the result was successful. Okay. And since we are trying to register and we are successful with that, we can just tell the user that user was created successfully. So technically, what we should be having here is that an email has been sent to the user's email for verification. So yeah, we're going to be looking at that, but it's going to be in later parts. And in this case, this is going to be success. And after we might have shown the user this information, we want to return back to the login screen. Okay? Because as the user is registered, we want to take them back to the login screen to sign in because they are registered. And to achieve that, we can just make use of the Nest router. So here we're going to have import router from Nest/router. And down here we can have router.push. Then in this case, we are going to our login URL, which is login. Okay, so that's the implementation for the register. Next is to test if it's actually working. And one thing I think we are missing is if we come back here, if we click on this, we can click on it multiple times, which I'm sure we all believe that's not a better flow. So when we click on this, we need to be able to tell the system not to allow any clicking in until we are done with whatever we are doing. So to do this, I can create a separate state to monitor that. Here I can have const loading. So this is going to be the loading state, set loading. And this is going to be use state. And this is going to be false by default. So whenever we make this request, I can set loading to be true. So set loading to be true. And once we are done with everything we are doing, I can set loading to be false. So now I need to send the loading variable to my out components and be able to control the behavior of the button. So we'll come back to the out component itself. And we are going to include the loading as a parameter. So here we are going to have loading, and it's going to be required. So you have to specify it both at the login and at the register section. Then if we come back here, we can have loading. Then we technically have two things to do. We probably want to implement a loading sign, and also we want to disable the button. Okay. So first thing first, we can say disabled when it's loaded. So when loading is true, then the button is going to be disabled. Then instead of having the button title, we can just say loading in front of it or doing something. Or better still, let's just have a triple dot in front of it, and we can achieve that as loading, then and we have a triple dot. Okay, so that means the text doesn't change. However, we get to see a feeling of something happening. So we have that for the sign up page. So let's have the loading here. Like that. Also, since this is now a required field, it means we have to use it on the login page as well. So let's just copy everything we have here. Come back to the login page. Let's paste it here. Let's import the use states. Now we can have loading here. All right, so that's all we need. Let's go back and test what we've done. All right, let's test this out. So if we click on register, okay, we get this error. Let's take a look at where this is coming from. So if we click on our inspect page, and we click on the network tab, let's try to make the request. So looks like the request is not even getting sent to the backend. So this error is from our frontend. So let's fix this. So I'm guessing it's the app. So after looking around for a minute, I'm able to figure out what went wrong. So in here, it should be email, then .value. Then also this should be password.value. So now let's try again. So click on register, we get these errors. And as you can see from here, we have two types of error. At the first time, it made an options request, which, yeah, is just a means to test if everything is okay. And with the second request, it's showing this issue. So this is a CORS error. So if we close this, we get this CORS error. And we can easily fix this within our Gene context. So here is the Gene CORS middleware. And if we go through what we have here, we have this information. So we have to get the CORS package. Then we have to import it. Then we have to specify all this. So let's do that. Let's come back to our backend. So if we go back to our server.brew, let's first stop the server so we can install this. All right, so we have the installation done. So next we want to import it as stated in the documentation. So we import this. So since we have other imports, let's just copy this. Let's go back to our backend. I'll specify this here. All right, so it's complaining that we have not used this. So here we define our router, and before we send this router here, we want to also specify our CORS information. So yeah, let's copy what we have here. We'll just copy all this. Come back to our backend and say g.use. And here we want to import time. So allow origins So here we are specifying only this origin as our allowed origin. I think we can have star as all origins. Okay, and I think that's what we want to go with for now. So here we are specifying allow methods to be put and pass. However, we can also specify get, post, delete, add options, and so on. I think there should be a way to specify all methods. Let's try star and see what happens. Actually, let's go back to the documentation and see the options they have. All right, so there's an option here to use the default CORS, which kind of allows our origin. And yeah, I think that was what we just stick to. So let's come back to our backend and remove all this. So here we're going to have CORS.default. Yeah. So we are using the default CORS configuration, which is going to allow all origin and allow all methods, I believe. So now that we've done that, let's start our server again. All right, the server is running and we are done with that part. So we still have this running. And now let's try to make our request again. All right, so request failed with a status 400. And yeah, that looks like what we want. So 400 bad requests. So it means our request was able to reach the backend server. And here we can take a look at the payload. So it means this information is actually not enough. Okay? So what we can do instead is we can try to see if response.error exists. And if that exists, that's what we want to show. However, if it doesn't, then we can just show the message. So if we come back to our front end, so instead of showing just the message, you can try to see if the error exists. So here we can say error.response. So if response exists, the data, I believe, then or the message. So it's complaining that the data can be an object. So let's say JSON.stringify. Then we can pass that as a string. So if this does not exist, then we go with the message. So let's try again and see what happens this time around. All right, so we get this information, which is not very readable again. So we are still going to have some time on the backend to kind of provide a readable error. But now we are able to get the information we need. So instead of trying to do this every now and then, this is a function that returns toasts. So we could probably just have an error handler somewhere. So we can come back to our utils. We have network at the moment. And this will do with everything related to network. And here we can have a new file called error handler. .ts as well. Then here we are going to have export costs error handler. Like this. So this is going to take in E of Asio's error. Like that. And it's going to return this whole thing. So toast is a function and can be used as a function. Okay? So now we don't need to do all this again. We can just have error handler. Then we specify if. I think that should be much more cleaner. So let me format this. Okay? So let's confirm this once again. Can close this and send. So now we still get the same information, which makes sense. However, we can see that the backend is trying all its best to validate this because we are not sending any data. But it shouldn't even make sense in the first place to be able to send this away from the front end. We shouldn't allow this in the first place. And to fix this, we can come back to our front end, come back to auth, and make these fields required. So it means before you can even send this request, you have to provide the information. So let's do this for the email as well. And also this is a type check, so we call it type email, which means before we can even send any information out, it must be a valid type. All right, so we have those in place now. We can close this. I think our information is going the way we want it. And now if we try to register, we have to fill in this information. So the first check I want to make is for when we are trying to register with an existing email. So let's see what happens. So if we come back to our Postman, we can copy this email. Come back here and paste. Then the password, I can just use a random password and send. So yeah, we get the error, user already exists. So we'll format this later on the front end too. We shouldn't return something like this, but now we get the gist. And what that means is if we register with a valid user, then we get our results. So let's try to register with a wrong email. So this is a bad email. We shouldn't even be able to send from the front end. Yeah, this is not valid. Right, so that's cool. Let's use me4. I think we have me3. And let's register. All right, so we are successful. However, it looks like when we try to push to the login screen, we have an error. So no router instance font. You should only use Nest router on the client side of the app, which we did, I believe. And it's telling me that my Next.js is out of date. Yeah, that's not an issue. So let's try to see what exactly is wrong with this. So based on the issues trend here, it looks like it's a common error and it has something to do with the latest Next.js. And one of the suggestions here is to use the use router. So let's try to go that route and see what we have. So if we come back to our front end, we can get use router from router like that. Then here we can have const router equals to use router like that. Okay. So let's take a look and see if this is going to work now. So if we come back to our browser, okay, so use router was not mounted, blah, blah, blah. All right, so I think I'll be moving away from this entirely because there's entirely a new package installed. So if we come back here, we'll change this from router to navigation. And here we are going to have use, lot of use. So we have use router, we have use path name, and so on. And yeah, we have everything just like it should be. So let's see if we are able to do away with the error. Yes, we are able to. And now let's try to sign up again. Let's copy our user once again. So this time let's go me5 and let's change this to something. All right, so this was successful. We're able to go to the login page and there we are. However, we've not implemented login, so let's quickly do that. That should be very fast. So we should come back here. We should copy most of everything we have here. Yeah, I think everything should do actually. And we should go back to the login page. We should paste everything. So we're going to turn this to an async function. And also we need to import Axios. We need to import auth URL. We need to import Axios error. Then error handler. Then router. Yep, let's copy that as well. Come back to the sign up page or rather the login page and include this. So let's get use router from Nest navigation. Yeah, so we have all the structure we need except for the URL. So this should change to login. All right. So we don't need the toast for logging in. When you sign in and it should take you to the dashboard. So I'll just remove this to go to the dashboard. And I'll remove this as well. However, if there's an error, then it should show us an error. So let's quickly take a look at what this looks like. So let me paste a wrong user. So let's just copy an email for this. come back here, paste. So we shouldn't have misses. So let's have that. Then let's have our password. So we don't have this remember me yet. And technically, I don't think we want to have remember me. Oh, okay. I think an idea I can use for the remember me is to have a refresh token. So when we click remember me and we log in, then it's going to return both an access token and a refresh token. And what that means is whenever our access token expires, we don't need to log the user out as long as the refresh token is still good. So we can always use the refresh token to get a new access token. However, that's going to be an implementation for another time. And to ensure that you don't miss on that, subscribe to stay updated. So yeah, we have this information. Let's try to log in. And now we get the error incorrect email address or password, which makes sense. So we can close this and try to log in again. So the same thing. So it looks like we have our things figured out. So let's log in with a valid email address. And we got to the page. So let's even make this page a little bit interesting. So if you come back to the main page, let's share this to H1 and call it welcome home. All right, so that's better. All right, guys, there you have it. We are able to log in, we are able to register, which kind of cover our user module. And I would say we are done with that. However, we are still lacking in some areas. We don't have the forget password flow. We don't have a verification email to verify a user. And also, we've not implemented the remember me. And these are features I believe would be necessary and to kind of show us how they are actually implemented. So stick around for that. So once we cover our other modules, I think these are features we would probably still need to visit. And that will be dependent if we need them to. But for now, we are done with the user module based on the requirements of our projects. And we're going to leave it at this for now. So guys, if you're enjoying the flow and the series, try to leave a thumbs up and share with your friends. Also, if you've not subscribed, click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification. That way you can get updates on future of the series. So thank you once again and bye for now.